everyone. It's Simon Ward from the Strumbellas, and you're listening to the Capsule podcast on liveandlimbo.com.
This is Capsule on liveandlimbo.com. My name is Sean Chin.
And I am Andreas Babiolakis. This is an audio experience where we take you on an adventure to music, film, and pop culture.
The Strumbellas is a newly minted Juno-Award winning alternative country band from Toronto.
This morning, we are joined by frontman Simon Ward. How are you today?
I am great, thank you. I'm a little bit tired, but we're just getting on our last day of this tour, so I'm just fighting through till tomorrow.
Has it been a good tour so far?
It has been magnificently awesome, to be honest.
That's
Perfect.
awesome. Yeah. So first off, thank you so much for being here, and congrats again on winning a Juno for Best Roots and Traditional Album of the Year.
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah. What did that feel like? What did that feel like?
Well, my story is that there was a live feed of it, right, on the internet.
Yeah.
But as soon as ours got nominated, the whole live feed shut down. So as far as my knowledge, there's no evidence of our acceptance speech, and I cried like a baby, and I couldn't even say my speech.
Oh, wow.
So I was pretty emotional for some reason. I'm not even a crier, and for some reason I got real emotional. So that's how I felt about it.
I'm sure you'll find another spotlight time soon, like very soon in the near future. But what went through your head when you won? Like it finally hit you, because you've been performing with your band since around 2008. So that's about 5 years or so now.
Yeah.
You've played for so long. And what did it feel like to finally get something like this?
I guess I just didn't believe it. I just kind of shocked, and then so nothing was really going on in my head for some reason. I was just shocked, and people pushed me along to the front. And then I cried, and that's like basically it. And then afterwards, I started to accept it and got pretty excited. It just felt good, man. It was awesome.
And now that you have a nice shiny award, do you feel like you've finally made it, or is this just the first inning for you guys?
Yeah, it's just the first inning. I mean, I totally appreciate it, like more than anything that the country recognizes our music, but I've got a lot of things to do. So this is an amazing milestone, but I got a lot more things to do as well.
What's on your grocery list of things to do, speaking of which?
Well, I think number one, it's just the music that I want to write. I have an extraordinarily high expectation on myself to write better and better and better music, and to take it to the highest levels possible. So that's number one. Like that's like pretty much what I wake up and think about on a daily basis is writing, and I'm always coming up with ideas. So that's definitely my first agenda, and it's just my own personal I want to satisfy myself in writing really good music, and that's number one. Number two, I mean, I just want to get to the point where I'm making a good living off it, because I got people to feed, and so that's a huge important thing. And you'd be surprised at how hard it is to make a good living in music in this country. So that's number two. And number three, I want to just play theaters and play huge festivals and play for an enormous amount of people, and just take the music as to many possible people in the world as I could possibly take it to.
Absolutely. That's the dream right there. Now, you say you've got this idea of what makes like a good song, or the songwriting process being a good one. Can you take us through a little bit of this process and what you would consider like the moment where you realize that you've written something that's good enough to actually expand it to a song?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I write all the time. Like, actually, lately it's been slowed down a bit because I got kids and stuff. But usually, like, I'm always writing, putting stuff in my voice memos, and then, I'll go, and if, you can hear it. When you write something and you like it, you just know that it has at least potential. So it's just a matter, it's like a snap of your finger. You write something and you go, holy crap, I know I've got to get this out to the band because I know it's something. And you can just feel it. And I go entirely by feeling. If something moves me, it's good, and it needs to at least be thrown out to other friends and family to listen to. But that's basically the only way I go by, is if I get a heart tingle, then it's okay with me.
Well, it's like Paul McCartney coming up with "I Want to Hold Your Hand" on the bus, just like coming up to himself, and he's like, "Wait a second, that's it." Or Keith Richards waking up to "I Can't Get No Satisfaction" and writing it down in a dream journal, right?
Sure, I mean I can't compare myself to those two guys, but I get the point you're saying, definitely.
The source of inspiration. Now, do these moments happen to you, perhaps? Like, what's the oddest instance of a song that's perhaps one of your releases that's come to you? Like, what's the oddest instance of a song coming to you like that?
That's a good question. Like a lot, some of the songs. I mean, this isn't like that crazy of a thing, but like a couple of the songs on the first record, like Bird That Follows Me, I found that song, or like Sailing. I found that chorus in an old voice memo from like 5 years ago, and then
Wow.
like it was like this thing I wrote in college, and I just found it in my old computer, and I found that chorus to turn into a song, or like it comes from everywhere, all over the place, like. Love at the End of an Era was written like days before we went into the studio, and we had never even played it before as a band. But I was like, guys, I have to do this song today. And so that day we put it together and put it on the album. So it just comes from everywhere, like it's pieces of the last 2 years of history of my personal life.
That's crazy.
That's awesome. And so your album, which everyone can buy on iTunes, We Still Move on Dance Floors. That's what you won the Juno for. And so many people have called your style different things such as alternative country. That constantly pops up. Would you say that's fair? Or how would you describe yourself?
Yeah, I'm happy with pretty much anything. Like I actually have way more fun hearing what people describe us than to have a description myself. So I've gone through like I think we created folk pop grass at one point, which I still
Cool.
our self-created identity. But alt country is like my favorite style of music. So if somebody calls me or us alt country, it's a huge compliment.
That sounds awesome. And so you have, you said you're coming to the end of your tour today. You're playing with Corb Lund
That's right.
in
Yeah.
Hamilton. Have you played with him before?
This is the first tour we've ever played with them.
Oh, that's great. And what do you think of him?
Love him. I love every second of him and his band. I love it. I've really gotten into his music because I've, obviously watched his show every night for the past 8 nights. So I'm really getting into his music, and as people, they're just like the coolest guys ever. And he's really, really good looking. And that's basically it's been like a really successful tour with those guys.
You're good looking too, man.
Oh, thanks. I mean,
Now you say that you're very heavily into country. Are there any country artists out now because I know a lot of people who don't listen to country perhaps don't know much about country music as a whole, but are there any artists now that have struck your attention or anything that pops out?
strangely enough, I mean, I maybe said it wrong. I actually don't listen to country music.
Oh,
I No, you're right. Like you're not wrong. I listen to like a ton of alt country music. Like it's really weird for me. I don't listen to like I mean, of course I listen to the greats like everybody, Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash, but they've been around for 50, 40 years, so you got to kind of grow. And like I don't listen to any modern day country at all.
so you're kind of like me then. You're into like Lee Hazelwood and all that, but then like Florida Georgia Line, you don't know where to start with them, right?
Well, either one of those guys, to be honest.
What about older country then? Like, are there any artists? Because you said they're the greats like Willie Nelson, everybody knows. But are there any that like hidden gems that you've discovered that not many people are talking about? Or
The biggest. I mean, okay, this isn't an old country artist, but like my greatest inspiration is like a really small Toronto band called Royal City, who's kind of like an alt country ish weird gothy band, and they're like my biggest inspiration. And a lot of people don't seem to know them, so that's like my number one recommendation to anybody is to listen to Royal City. No, I don't think I am not a music guy. Like I like I am just not one of those guys who has a collection of records in their house and knows all these sorts of obscure music. I know I like I'm so lonesome I could cry. Like I'm like I like famous old country songs, and I'm very non-educated in country music.
well, it's never too late to start. I mean, there's a whole expansion of music out there, right?
Yeah.
You say you're not heavily into music or anything, but or like
Country music. Yeah.
or not or like I guess like expanding outside of what most people know, but With the Strumbellas, are there any influences that have affected your music at all, or?
No, definitely. Like I have a few go-to artists that I'm obsessed with in nowadays. Like Father John Misty, I think is
Oh
probably
yeah.
the best records I've heard in a long time. Alt J, I think is one of the best records I've heard in a long time. Um, Edward Sharpe, I'm a huge Edward Sharpe fan. Um, there's a one Trampled by Turtles record I really like. So there are certain records that I'm like that guy in high school who I remember when I used to like Bone Thugs and Harmony song on Crossroads. I just put it on a blank tape over and over again and listen to the blank tape and that song 100 times in a row. I'm not that guy who gets obsessed with like one or two records and that's all I listen to. So those four records that I just threw out, it was like pretty much all I've listened to the past 6 months.
Cool. Well, there's no
awesome.
wrong way to listen to music, of course, and those are pretty good records. The ones that I have heard, like Father John Misty, is fantastic.
Killer. Like one just like I just got this week, Portugal the Man.
Oh yeah.
Terrific stuff. Like I don't know any country music, but I love listening to new, Canadian bands and or not even just Canadian, American, any, but yeah. So anyway, sorry, I'm babbling now.
No, that's
No,
fine.
that's okay.
So are you like super familiar with the Toronto scene, like downtown? Where are some of your places to eat?
Well, my favorite spot to eat is right by the Horseshoe because we played the Cameron House at the Horseshoe lot, and it's down at Queens Spadina. There's this little like Vietnamese sandwich shop called the Bahn Mi Boys.
Nice, I've heard of it.
Oh, I've heard of it too. I've never eaten there though.
$5 for this huge wicked Vietnamese sandwich. Like I go there all the time.
Are you a big fan of the Asian cuisine scene?
Huge fan of the Asian cuisine scene.
Nice.
Join the club. Here we go.
No, I like all like you know what? I'm a fan of Asian food or like you name the ethnicity and I'm all about it. I love all that stuff.
Yeah, I love trying everything too. That's what we're here for, to try out all of the world's different cuisine. That's what.
Yeah.
Now on tour, because you've been all over the place now, what's been like the standout eating experience that you've had while you've been on tour?
I was in Regina for the first time we got nominated for a Juno. We were in Regina for it, and I went to this little off the cuff place and got like a traditional cabbage rolls dinner, and it was like 10 out of 10. Like it was that classic cabbage rolls, pierogies. It was like full on like authentic, and that was like my most memorable eating experience I can think of on the road.
What was the name of that place?
Sorry, I totally forget.
Oh no, I need to find that out.
We need to go on the missed persons thing on Craigslist and say, any cabbage roll chefs you've been mentioned. We need to know all the locations so we can remember.
Yeah, I know it's right near the Cultural Exchange Center, or that kind of place at Regina venue. That's where we were playing, so it's right near there. So that's maybe a help on the old Yelp train or something.
Cool, there we go.
Have you played in New Orleans yet?
No, we have not made it down that far south, but definitely would be excited to do that.
I think your music would do very well there, and then you can also try out all of their soul food.
I think that would be fantastic. That's on the top of our list in terms of places to go is down south in the States. So,
and if you do go there, you should try chicken and waffles. That's what I had when I was down there. And so you're playing You're playing at CMW, Canadian Music Week, coming up. Yeah.
No, are we?
Yeah, you are. I think so.
Awesome. I'll be there.
You don't know?
I don't know anything. I don't know anything. I just get told the day before where I'm supposed to be. I'm not a very good businessman.
Oh no. You should keep track of that. I think you're going to be at the Indie Awards or something.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. On May 10th, I did know that about that one. Actually.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I'm like, I think you're supposed to be at a big award show.
Part of CMW, but I totally know what you're talking about now.
Okay. Yeah, because Born Again Ruffians and Colorado are also on the card, and there are some great bands as well.
Nice.
Yeah, we love them.
Yeah, definitely. This gonna be a sweet night.
And so, has the process for writing a new album started yet?
Oh yeah, I've got the next album all pretty much done. I'm really excited about it.
Is it going to be longer or shorter or?
Depends how much money we get.
Oh, okay.
I like albums in general. I'm a huge fan of short albums, and I don't know. Like I think you could take almost any album in the world and cut off 3 songs of it, and it's probably better than if it had the 3 extra songs. So I'm a huge fan of short albums.
I agree. I think maybe 10 songs is a perfect amount for any album.
Yeah.
That's lean.
Yeah, I'm totally down with that. I mean, I'm not like anti long albums. I just don't want to make any.
I don't know. I mean, if it's the artist's intention and it fits perfectly well, I think long albums can be fine. I mean, I've heard some 2 hour long albums, like for instance, Swans. I've talked about them before. Have had 2 hour longs that are very abrasive, that are fantastic. But then some artists can have like a 50-minute album, and it could still be really boring. I don't know. I'm not too fond of like the stripping a few songs club.
That's cool, man. Agree to disagree, you know?
Exactly. It's what I was saying before. You can't do music in a bad way ever. So having said that, are you a big fan of EPs then? Because those are short releases. They're short and sweet. They happen, and you can replay them instantly.
I'm a big fan of songs. I actually don't really care about albums or EPs. I'm a big fan of individual songs.
Cool.
Oh, that's different. Yeah, I like albums as a whole, but yeah, songs are for sure. Yeah, you need to look at each one individually.
Yeah, I'm all about the song, man. If a band has one song on it, that's good enough for me.
So how does this affect the actual writing process itself? Because you're still releasing full albums or releases. Does it make you cater more towards specific songs, or do you still try to craft like a larger picture with the entire album, or how does that figure out? Because usually we get people listening to full length albums. We don't get fans of specific songs.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, I think that you unnaturally or naturally the album will link up, just because for me anyways, you're writing during that period of your life, so reoccurring themes are going to just naturally happen.
Right.
You know, the first album, all I did was talk about God and death. You know, the second album, all I did was talk about whatever it was I talked about. And so I think that's going to naturally happen, whether like it gets planned or not, with just the collection of songs that you've written during that time of your life. But I definitely don't, you know, I think it's a huge undertaking to do a cohesive album, you know, like, and I think it's beautiful when people do it, but I'm more just like, I want each individual song to be its own little story and picture, and then, you know, they just get thrown on a disc. So sorry, I'm like not an artist. I'm just like a song guy.
No, not at all. There's still a huge set of artistry over there. If there wasn't, then people like Bob Dylan wouldn't have made it big, right? So having said that, would you want to find yourself like topping like the Billboard at any time, or is that like not a part of a scene you would want to be a part of?
That's the exact scene I want to be a part of, and I wish to God I could get there. I've learned in 5 years that this industry is just too hard to make a good living off of. And it's very, very challenging to be a cool indie band and, you know, make a name for yourself worldwide. You know, I'm not in it to make a name for myself with, you know, a small group of people who are cool. I'm in it to play in China. I'm in it to play in Mexico and Australia. And I just think you get there a lot faster if you gear your music towards more popular sound with integrity still. But, you know, I'm all about taking it as far as we can go. And I'm not really an artsy kind of guy. I want to try to make more mainstream music.
And how do you find the process of keeping your roots, but catering to the mainstream while keeping your integrity intact? How do you find that?
I just find that like I had a huge talk with like a lot of musicians at the Junos about this, fighting with them. And I mean, I think for me, a lot of the integrity is my apartment when I'm writing it. And as soon as it's done and I put my heart and soul into it, you know, after that, I want to take it to realms of potentially, you know, taking it to a more popular sound. Like, you know, even Tegan and Sara said at the Junos this year, you know, like they weren't traditionally pop record makers, but they said right on stage, they were like, well, we want everybody to know that, yes, we set out to make a pop record. And, you know, it still had the exact same integrity as their other records. They just wanted to, you know, produce it and instruments and just kind of gear it in a certain way. And that's kind of exactly what I want to do too. I want to write the same melodies in my apartment and just kind of maybe gear them towards more of a popular sound.
Which is interesting because you're a part of the indie scene, and so are many artists, but there's this middle ground now that's in between independent music and mainstream music. Artists like Lana Del Rey, which caused like a lot of controversy because a lot of indie fans are saying, no, this shouldn't happen. We want this to ourselves. But with artists like that, now we've got a channel like Indie 88.1 in Toronto that just started this year, of whom we've talked about on this podcast before. And they're kind of like the middle ground where they're trying to introduce indie artists to the mainstream. While they're not playing too much that's obscure, they will announce a lot of lesser known bands, or even Toronto bands or Canadian bands. And actually, I learned about the Strumbellas through them because they sing your praises quite often on that channel. So is this kind of the future that you're wanting, where indie music can be made into like the middle ground where the mainstream will discover it, but then there's still a lot that can be discovered if you do further insight? Or do you want it to just be like a universally acclaimed genre by the masses? Or like, what do you think of the indie scene, since you're a part of it?
Well, I think Indie 88 is doing one of the best things for Toronto in a long time. I think that the fact they have created this radio station that's helping out artists like us and like July Talk and like the Darcys and these bands who, you know, are indie bands who are, you know, trying to get to higher levels. I think that they've almost been saved music in Toronto right now, because you hear so many people come up to us and say, "Hey, heard you on Indie 88. Hey, heard you on Indie 88." You know, and so I think what they're doing is brilliant. And to answer your question, yes, that is the route I would ideally like to go: is write good music that we just love to write, and it just falls down a bit more of a popular stream, so we can go out and play places like all around the world. You know, like I would love to be on the Indie 88s all around the world. That'd be amazing. You know, I don't have to be on whatever the same radio station as, you know, Britney Spears, but I'd like to be like the Indie 88s all around the world. Great that somebody like Lana Del Rey gets into the mainstream or gets popular off of weird indie music. I think it's the best thing ever. I mean, I think Mumford & Sons breaking ground for the style of music that I play was the best thing ever, and Edward Sharpe. So maybe it's a different opinion between a musician and somebody who's a fan, because, you know, I'm trying to make a living off this. And so when a band like Mumford & Sons, you know, breaks ground for me, I really appreciate it and think it's awesome, because, you know, I think pop music, you know, Britney Spears is cool. I respect that stuff too. But, you know, indie music is the style of music I love. So the bigger, the better for me. And the more happy I am that I can turn on the radio and hear Mumford & Sons or Edward Sharpe instead of things maybe I don't like as much.
No, for sure. I like that opinion, actually, because it's not one you hear too often. And no, I agree entirely. And I hope you too break this ground of which you speak of. And best of luck. Yeah,
we love your honesty and your creative input into this. And just for our listeners, tell us a little bit more about yourself, like your hobbies and what do you do? I know you have kids, and we can hear them in the background there, so you got your hands full.
My hobbies, man, are pretty much music. That's pretty much all I do, other than hang out with my family and drink. So those are basically I just listen to, write, produce, record. I do a lot of music in my life. It's my favorite thing to do. So
that's awesome. And how many kids do you have?
I have two. I have one. The one you hear is about 3, and the other one's like 6 weeks old. So
wow.
Congratulations!
Congrats. They sound like a bunch of fun.
Wild bunch, yes.
Yeah. And so all of our listeners can find you online at thestrumbellas.ca, and you're on Twitter at thestrumbellas and facebook.com/thestrumbellas. Thank you so much for joining us today, Simon.
Thanks, fellas. I appreciate it.
You can find myself on Twitter at Sean Chen.
And you can find myself at Andreas Babs.
Follow the show at Live in Limbo and use the hashtags Capsule Podcast to join in on the conversation. Please subscribe to this show on iTunes. And as always, you can find the show notes at liveinlimbo.com/capsule. Take care.